We're standing here with Planned Parenthood because the stakes have never been higher, and the threats to women's health has never been greater. And I have been with Planned Parenthood for all 26 years of my congressional career. But our commitment to reproductive rights must be stronger and louder and more unshakable than ever. Make no mistake, the anti-choice views that President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Judge Kavanaugh, are not up for debate. If they were, far-right groups like Human Coalition would not be declaring, and I quote, "The end of Roe versus Wade and legal abortion is in sight." Look, President Trump has been crystal clear about only nominating judges who seek to overturn Roe versus Wade. As a candidate, he talked about punishing women for exercising their constitutional right to make their own medical decisions. As president, he's limited himself to judges from a far right-wing wish list assembled by the Heritage Foundation and the Federalist Society. You know, I've got to shake my head when I hear my Republican colleagues try and smear Democrats for supposedly supporting judicial activism. In my view, there's nothing more activist than the Heritage Foundation and the Federalist Society taking millions of dollars from big corporations and wealthy CEOs so they can build a pipeline of extremist judges who will do exactly their bidding in the United States Supreme Court.
Democrats believe in the Constitution.
If confirmed, President Trump will have replaced Justice Kennedy, the swing vote on the court who repeatedly upheld the right to choose, with an activist judge who swings only to the far right. And I think we need to remember how we got at this pivotal moment. It was Senate Republicans who brazenly orchestrated the theft of a Supreme Court seat with more than 9 months left in President Obama's term. If they held themselves to their own standards, they'd let the American people weigh in for the future of the Supreme Court this November. And we believe they should wait to let the American people weigh in. But we know Republicans can't afford to give voters that chance. They will do nothing, they will stop at nothing in order to tip the scales of justice against women and consumers and patients for generations to come. So much so, they are willing to let Trump nominate a judge who has publicly stated in writings that he believes that the President of the United States should be above the law. That, in fact, it is the President who can decide for himself whether a law is constitutional or not, and therefore whether he will obey it or not. Last time I checked the Constitution of the United States, that was left exclusively for the Supreme Court, not for President Trump. We need a Supreme Court that will uphold the rule of law, not the rule of Trump in the United States Supreme Court. As a senator, I have always taken my responsibility to advise and consent on lifetime appointments to the Supreme Court very seriously, as I have taken my responsibility to defend the interests of the people of New Jersey. That's why I voted against Justice Gorsuch, because he, in fact, could not answer the questions that I think are critical to the well-being of New Jerseyans and Americans. And we have seen in the last set of decisions that he is on the way to, unfortunately, realizing the very concerns I had about him as a nominee. And the people of New Jersey overwhelmingly believe that women, not the government, should be able to decide when they become mothers. That's what's at stake with this Supreme Court. The basic principle that women have a right to make their own private medical decisions. We cannot let the president turn back the clock on half a century of hard-won progress that has been achieved for women's equality. And we cannot separate the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh from the broader repercussion on President Trump's decisions on women's health. President Trump and his Republican enablers tried to end Medicaid as we know it, which covers nearly half of all pregnancies in America. Now they aim to cut Title X funding, jeopardizing the ability of trusted providers like Planned Parenthood to provide women with affordable contraception and annual exams. And behind the scenes, this administration is doing everything it can to sink the Affordable Care Act and selling health care insurance premiums soaring. Now the Trump administration is arguing in a federal court, that the Affordable Care Act's protections against discrimination for pre-existing conditions, saying that, in fact, they are unconstitutional. It's unimaginable to me that a law passed by a Congress and signed by a previous president is now not being upheld by the Department of Justice, but ultimately being said that it is unconstitutional. If we see Judge Kavanaugh's record of ruling against consumers and siding with corporate interests, it is all the more troubling, and it is all the more troubling as it relates to the Affordable Care Act. There are 3.8 million New Jerseyans who have a pre-existing condition. For me, that's another 3.8 million reasons to oppose Kavanaugh's confirmation. It wasn't that long ago that women could be charged higher premiums than their male counterparts in the same age group, in the same geography. We eliminated that discrimination in the Affordable Care Act. And even for women who may be beyond the years of reproductive concerns, the reality is when we created the Affordable Care Act, we wrote in as essential benefits a whole array of women's health care issues, led by the women senators in the United States Senate, which I joined with on the Senate Finance Committee. We put a whole host of essential benefits for women that did not exist before. Now, if the Affordable Care Act is destroyed, all of those essential benefits are destroyed. We cannot allow that to happen in the greatest country on the face of the earth. We have to fight this tooth and nail. So, if my Republican colleagues were truly concerned about reducing abortion rates, they would support access to affordable birth control. They would support comprehensive sex education in our schools that are proven to reduce unwanted pregnancy. And they would join you and me and Senator Booker in defending Planned Parenthood. But they don't support these policies because they don't trust women to make decisions on their own essential health benefits. My friends, in my 26 years in the Congress, I have not seen a more momentous moment. The stakes have never been higher. We will not allow for a next generation that they will not have a choice over their reproductive health. We will not allow for the next generation that 5 men on the Supreme Court will tell women what to do with their bodies. We will not allow for the next generation that they will be told who they'll be allowed to love. We will not allow for the next generation to end all of the advances we have made in health care so that the greatest country on the face of the earth can move closer to universal health care. And we will not allow this to happen because the power of the people is greater than the people in power. And if we raise our voices, we will defeat Judge Kavanaugh.